Let's work on an intuitive landscape painting using watercolor in my intuitive landscape art journal. As I've mentioned in previous videos, I have multiple journals for multiple themes and purposes, and this one has been one that I have used specifically for landscape style paintings because it's a landscape journal. I originally recorded this video for an art class I was doing, and I'm showing you it here now on YouTube with a voiceover just talking a bit about intuitive realism and how I overlap my intuitive process, which means I'm painting without a plan, with realism, which usually involves some type of vision or idea in your head about what you want to paint. And for this one specifically, I am starting out by wetting the page with water and going in with a watercolor wash because I want the paint to spread and have an ethereal effect like it would in the sky if you were looking up at the clouds on a magical day. I am using watercolor straight out of the tube for this one. I had no particular reason for doing that. I just liked this color, and I think I wanted just a little bit more of a pigmented wash, and I didn't want to struggle to get the watercolor out of a dry pan. So for this painting, I am going for a cloud or sky-like effect. So while the plan in place exists because there is going to be clouds and in the sky, I don't exactly know what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, or why I'm doing it, or what the end result is going to look like. Clouds can look a lot of different ways. Skies can look a lot of different ways. So this is a nice way to stretch the intuitive realism muscle because there's so many ways that you can interpret a cloudy sky. And I have always struggled with painting negative space with watercolor. And so clouds insinuate white or insinuate a lighter color. And so what I'm trying to do here is to create clouds without having the white negative space. And so I saw a person use paper towels to wipe up some of the wet watercolor and to create dimension within the wash so that it looks ethereal and like there's clouds there. So that's what I'm trying here with no clue if it's going to work. And that's another element of intuitive painting. You don't always have to have no plan, but not having a completely thought out plan or not knowing how you're going to execute the plan. It really is just about inviting in the intuition to the process and allowing the intuition to be in the driver's seat. And so while there may be a background plan or there may be some background intentions, you're still allowing yourself to trust that your intuition is going to know what to do at the time it needs to do it. And for me, I knew I wanted to wipe up the paint that was already wet here, and I immediately started to panic because I did not like the way it looked. But what I have learned from this process of teaching myself how to paint and how to paint intuitively, it's that you often don't like what you're doing right away, and it takes time and it takes layers and it takes a bit of effort and finesse to get these intuitive techniques to work the way that you want them to. And if you give up at the first sign of not liking what you're doing, then you're not giving yourself the proper chance to work out the issue and let your intuition guide you to the end result that you're working towards. I also was pretty sure that this was not going to work out and that it was going to be either covered up or just turn into something else. But I end up pleasantly surprised by the end because I just keep working it. And I also just keep telling myself that this really didn't have an end goal and it would be okay if the end goal didn't look anything like what I thought. I'm speeding this up because it took a lot of finesse to finally get it to start looking like clouds, but you can see here right about at this point, you're starting to see a bit of a cloudy atmosphere come through. Now, if I had tried to do this when I first started trying to teach myself how to watercolor paint, it would not have resulted in something that I actually was happy with. It would have resulted in a thrown away piece of paper or a tucked away piece of paper that I told myself I'd come back to or I'd teach myself again. And I have a basement full of piles of watercolor that I had tried and experimented with and failed, and books full of art that I have tried to start and never finished. And so this part of my journey that you're seeing now, this snippet is after 5, 6, 7, 8 years of practice. So it doesn't mean that it's going to take you 5, 6, 7, or 8 years of practice to get to a point where you can paint without a plan and still get to something that you like. But it means that there's going to be practice and failures and times where you're like, damn it, I really wanted to like that, or I ruined it, or I messed it up. And I know I sound like a broken record if you've watched my videos before, but I feel like I have to repeat that you have to make messy, ugly art you're not happy with over and over and over again, because for every time I say that, there's going to be a time where you're going to make something you don't like and you're going to want to give up. And I want you to hear my voice when I say, keep going, push through the ugly phase. You will get to a point where the ugly phase becomes a welcomed friend, because you know it means you're that much closer to something that you love. This painting is with one color, just one color. I believe it's a Payne's gray, or no, I actually don't know. Maybe it's Prussian blue. It's too late for me to go back now, because as you can tell, I literally cut this watercolor tube in half to be able to work with it. But the point is you only need one color of paint, one paintbrush, and a piece of paper to start to practice, and to trust that over time you will develop what you need to be able to do things like this and have it feel good. So ask yourself, what is stopping you from starting an art journal and letting yourself explore with no rules? What is stopping you from creating intuitive art? What is stopping you from accessing your intuition in a way that feels accessible and good for you? And what is stopping you from stepping outside of your comfort zone? What is your inner critic telling you about your ability to paint from your intuition? What is your inner critic telling you about the purpose of making ugly art or messy art, or having a process where you create something you don't like? Is it telling you that that is bad, that that's not supposed to happen, that to be a good artist, to be a great artist, you must create something you love all the time? Check in with those inner narratives, those inner stories that are preventing you from creating intuitively, and also maybe even preventing you from crossing over from intuitive abstract into some intuitive realism. Are you maybe more ready than you think you are to move into some more realism? And have you been waiting because you feel like you aren't ready? What would happen if you tried? I'm getting to the end of this painting here, and I went in with a bit of fluid white paint just to highlight a bit more of the edges of my clouds. And everything stays a little bit wet during this process for this one. I do let some of it dry here and there, but for the most part, everything stays relatively wet. I encourage you to try this technique and let me know how it goes, and leave any questions or feedback in the comments. And if you enjoyed this chat and paint session, please like and subscribe. I am learning my flow with these videos and what you like and what you want to learn about. I really enjoy talking more process than talking tutorial, but I am happy to do more specific tutorials if you want them. So just let me know. Happy painting, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.